What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Today we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 non-conference games for this upcoming college football season. We've got a lot of really good matchups in the non-con in the first few weeks of the season. I can't wait for it. But we're going to talk about the top 10 games. Now, non-conference games, as far as Power 5 schedule and other Power 4 schools, I'm kind of hit and miss on it. You know, sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't. It's going to make you a lot of money, that's for sure, but sometimes it can hurt you, sometimes it can help you. Like, you know, for example, last year, Texas, them scheduling Alabama ended up helping them in the long run because it kind of gave them a leg up when it came to playoff discussion as far as who should get in. But also I've seen scenarios where it hurts you, like, you know, Notre Dame and Ohio State, for example. I've seen them schedule each other, and one of those teams loses that game, and it comes up and bites you in the end because you have a loss when really you could have just scheduled a cupcake like Michigan does and then, you know, gotten an undefeated record. But like Michigan, for example, not this year. They play somebody tough. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But I'm kind of hit and miss on it. Now, sometimes, like I said, I like it. Sometimes I don't. But anyways, let's get into the non-conference games here. First off, honorable mentions. We've got a few of these. I tried to not include anybody twice. So some of these games would be in my top 10, but I tried to not include anybody twice, like I said. So that's why they're not on the list. Now, while we're moving along, let me know down in the comment section your games that you're most excited for in the non-conference down in the comment section. But first off on my honorable mentions, Notre Dame, Florida State. All right, this one would have definitely been on the list. Both these teams have college football playoff aspirations. Notre Dame got Riley Leonard coming in. Marcus Freeman, it's not quite make or break for him just yet, but I won't be surprised if he's not on the hot seat pretty soon if they don't have a really good year. As for Florida State, missed the playoff last year. They definitely have reloaded this roster. They have a chance to make the playoff this season. We'll see if it happens. Kansas versus UNLV. Both these teams had 9 wins last year. Should be a really explosive offensive game. Miami versus USF. Kind of a battle in Florida. We saw what USF did with Alabama last year. Miami has playoff hopes themselves. USF should be kind of a probably top 2 American team, I would say, this season in the AAC. This should be a really good game. Clemson versus Appalachian State. Clemson, all right, we'll talk about them again in a little bit, but Appalachian State, one of the top 5, probably in the top 2 G5 schools this season. I think they're going to be really good offensively. They've got a tough non-con. We'll talk about them again in a little bit as well. Kansas State versus Tulane. All right, Kansas State should be really good this year. All right, they're kind of the favorite in the Big 12 betting-wise. They've got Avery Johnson at quarterback. Tulane, they've been a mainstay at the top of the G5 over the last few years. Iowa versus Iowa State, always a good rivalry game despite, you know, how Iowa looks. And even if one of these teams isn't good, it'll be a close game. Alabama versus Wisconsin. All right, both these teams should be 2-0 going into this game. Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, how's his offense going to look against, probably their toughest test yet at that point in the season? And then as for Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, Tyler Van Dyke, how are they going to look going up against Alabama's defense? All right, to number 10, Miami versus Florida. All right, so on each one, I'll have the game, and then I'll show you their schedule as far as how their record was last season. Miami versus Florida. All right, Miami, like I said, has playoff hopes. As for Florida, not a very good year last year, but they were competitive in some games. Like they beat Tennessee, I think, and then this is kind of make or break for Billy Napier. All right, he is officially on the hot seat, I think, at Florida. He's got to win this year and win big, otherwise he's probably going to be gone. And then as for Miami, this is probably Mario Cristobal's most talented team, I think, that he's had, whether it's at Miami, whether it's at Oregon. This is going to be a really good game, kind of a battle of blue bloods in Florida. Our number 9, Liberty versus Appalachian State, arguably the 2 best group of 5 schools this season. This is going to be a really good offensive game, explosive. Liberty, you've got Caden Salter pictured here. Appalachian State, you've got Joey Aguilar. Both those guys can put up some serious numbers. Appalachian State's got a tough non-conference schedule. This one in Clemson, I think they're going to blow the offenses up, blow the scoreboards off with their offense here. Number 8, Notre Dame versus Louisville. All right, last season, Louisville kind of got the upset here. Notre Dame, you've got Riley Leonard coming in from Duke. Louisville is kind of upgraded in the transfer portal as well. Now, Jeff Brom last year in his first season took Louisville to the ACC championship, really good season. Can they improve upon that? And then Notre Dame, I kind of touched on it earlier, can they make the playoff? All right, they've kind of been, I won't say disappointing, but they haven't quite reached their potential under Marcus Freeman. Can it happen this year against a pretty tough schedule? We'll see. All right, number 7, Oregon versus Boise State. All right, this is a week 1 matchup here. Oregon headed to the Big Ten. They've got a new quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. Boise State, all right, one of the contenders in the G5 for that last college football playoff spot. Now, they struggled at the beginning of last year, Boise State, but they really turned it on when they fired their head coach, and then the guy they promoted to interim is their head coach now, Spencer Danielson. Now, they have a change at quarterback as well. They bring in Malachi Nelson from USC. How is he going to look against Oregon? We'll see. Our number 6, LSU versus USC. Speaking of USC, so here we've got a matchup, two teams breaking in their new quarterbacks. LSU, you've got Garrett Nussmeier. USC, you've got Miller Moss. Now, as weird as it sounds, despite both of these teams losing a lot of talent from last year, in particular at the quarterback position, I think they're going to both be improved this year. LSU, they lost Daniels, but they also lost a lot of receivers, a lot of guys in the draft. But the way their schedule plays out with what they have coming back on the O-line, I think they're going to be better this year. Could be a college football playoff team. As for USC, they lost Caleb Williams, kind of disappointed this season. Their defense is somewhat improved in the transfer portal. They go to the Big Ten. How are they going to look? I think they'll be a little improved as well. All right, getting into the top 5 here. Florida State versus Memphis. Okay, so why is this game on here? First off, Memphis, I think, is the best G5 school this season. They are currently my pick to make the college football playoff out of the G5 as that representative. Florida State, we talked about them a little earlier. They are loaded talent-wise. Transfer portal, Mike Norvell loaded up. DJ Uiagalelei coming back to the ACC. As for Memphis, Seth Hennigan at quarterback. He's going to put up some All-American numbers. Now, these teams do know each other. Mike Norvell did coach at Memphis. Their head coach did coach under Mike Norvell when he was at Memphis. So he got some interesting storylines here. This should be a pretty good one, I think. Our number 4, Penn State versus West Virginia. I think West Virginia is going to be really improved this year. They've got Garrett Green back at quarterback. Neil Brown kind of got himself off the hot seat last year with a really good season. And then as for Penn State, Drew Aller, James Franklin, now's the time. All right, the college football playoff has expanded. You're probably the team that benefits the most from that out of anybody in college football because they've kind of been that, right next team the past few years. They've been like the 5th best team in the country at certain points, but they couldn't beat Michigan or Ohio State, so they couldn't make it. But this game is going to be a true test for both these teams. I think West Virginia, has a chance to win the Big 12. Penn State, I think, has a chance to be the second best team in the Big 10. So we'll see. All right, number 3, NC State versus Tennessee. Both these teams 9-4 last year, but this is going to be a really good one. I think both these teams have a chance at making the college football playoff. NC State, I would say, is a top 2 team in the ACC. They've loaded up in the transfer portal. Dave Doran's done a really good job there. Then as for Tennessee, you went 9-4 last year with Joe Milton at quarterback. Josh Heupel's done a really good job there. Now you hand the reins to Nico Iamaleava, however you say his last name. He's looked pretty good in the spots he's got in. How's he going to look against a really good Power 4 defense against NC State? We're going to find out. All right, number 2. These top 2 games are the clear top 2 in my opinion. Texas versus Michigan. Last year, both college football playoff teams. All right, now Michigan loses a ton, but they've got the pieces back to make another run, I think. As for Texas, all right, you've got Quinn Ewers back, but other than him, you don't have a lot. He lost almost every weapon he had out wide, at running back, at tight end. A lot of pieces are gone. Michigan's defense is going to get after him. Then as for Michigan, you've got Donovan Edwards back. You're breaking in Alex Orji at quarterback. The defense, the O-line are going to be stacked. But other than that, you've got a lot of question marks. I think this is going to be a really entertaining game between both teams that really have a lot of question marks. All right, and number 1 for me is Georgia versus Clemson. Georgia last year 13-1, Clemson last year 9-4. Both these teams for me right now are the favorites in their conference. I think Georgia's the best team in the SEC, arguably the best team in the country. Clemson, I think, is the best team in the ACC probably right now. Now, you've got Cade Klubnik back at quarterback. He's been the quarterback for a few years now. Is now the time where he can finally take that step, finally get Clemson back to the college football playoff. We're going to know a lot from this game. Now, this game could end up in a blowout. I would not be surprised by that if Georgia just kills them, but you never know. Clemson can hang around. I'm a big fan of Dabo Swinney. I think he's a pretty good head coach. I won't say underrated, but him and Kirby Smart are the only 2 coaches right now that have won national championships, I think, in the playoff era. So this is a really good matchup. I'm excited to see it. But what games did I leave off this list that you were intrigued by? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video. And most importantly, subscribe.